Hello, friend. You are welcome to our discussion today on basic econometrics. I want to assume that many of you do not understand anything about econometrics, and that is why I want to start as simple as possible. Okay, those of you who have the data, just follow me if you already have it installed on your system, and then you have the data, follow me the steps I'm taking. If you don't have the data, on the link in this video, there's a link there. Click on that link. You will download the data I'll be using to demonstrate in this discussion. Thank you very much as you join us. I'll be sharing my laptop desktop so that whatever I'm seeing, you will see the way I'm doing it and you'll be able to join us. All right. Thank you. Cheers. Let's get to the slide now as we start the main gists. Hello, friends. So you're welcome to this part one of our training. This is basically introduction to basic econometrics. We are using EViews software. I remember your facilitator that, like I said earlier, Dr. Makwachukwu Ojide. Just a little background so that you will understand exactly what we want to do. Now, EViews is basically econometrics view for econometrics analysis. It's a big name, but I will break it down a little for you so that you will understand what we are saying. Now, what is econometrics? It's basically a combination of econo, and metrics. Simply put, is the application of statistics in the analysis of economic variables. All right? And this particular approach can actually be applied in many other disciplines, depending on what you are doing. It is economic plus measurement. We want to go beyond, normally we go beyond the theories to measure those theories by throwing on variables. For instance, what you are seeing on here now is a basic structure of simple regression model. It has key parts. The first one is what we call the dependence variable. Dependent because you are trying to see the factors that are affecting this your y. So it is depending on those factors. If, for instance, I'm a very fat person and you want to find out the factors that has made me to become fat. So my fatness depends on those factors. And those factors are one, what we call x. Incidentally, here we have only one x, and that makes it simple regression because you have only one independent variable. When there are more than one independent variable, it becomes multiple regression. I hope that is clear enough. And then when we are trying to see the effect of this independent variable on the y, that effect or the magnitude of the weight is measured by this beta 1 here. We call it slope parameter, is the beta 1. It tells us the magnitude, whether it is small impact or huge impact. But whether it is impact or not, there is also a way we are going to test to see whether this parameter is significant or otherwise. Now there's another beta here that is O in front. This one represents what should be like the baseline for y if there is no factor affecting y. For instance, we usually use consumption to explain this. Okay, if for instance this is consumption, what you consume, and is a function of income, the money you are earning. Okay, if you don't earn money, like some people run into such situations, sometimes you are not able to earn any money, you discover that you will still be consuming, whether you are borrowing or you are getting the funds somewhere, and that is what this beta stands for. All right. Now, when we are checking, for instance, that your consumption, and we are saying consumption, your y depends on your income, you discover that your consumption may not depend only on income. But in this model, because we want to keep it simple, we may not be able to include all the factors that are affecting your consumption, and that may require that we put a variable that helps us. This is error term or stochastic variable, is a big name. It actually means a summary of those factors that we did not include in this model, but they also in a way affect your dependent model, a dependent variable. So we didn't include them, we ignore them, but we recognize that they exist. So we use this error term to capture all of them. Okay, so in this discussion, we have part 1, part 2, part 3. Part 1 we are treating now is focused on 4 things, which I'm going to show you how to do using EViews. What you will learn here. In part 1, I will show you how to open EViews, and then bring in your data into EViews, and then how to edit the data if there is need to edit it, or maybe when you brought it in, there's a variable you omitted and you now want to bring that variable, you will also bring it in. And then I'll show you how to do simple regression and then multiple regression. Part 2 will treat multiple regression with dummy. I will explain all of that, and then we'll do multiple regression when we need to log the variables. Okay, in part 3, we'll treat autoregressive model. I will explain all of that. Just relax. We want to take it as simple as possible. And then I'll also show you what we call differencing our variables, especially multiple. There are conditions for differencing. I will explain that simple. And then there's something we call causality test. That's where we're going to end in this training. So part 1 is what we are starting today, and we are starting with that first one. Now let me also explain this thing in a way that you get it better. The recommended textbook of my reference, there are many other textbooks in the market, is the one written by Gujarati. It also has soft copies available online. You may want to look at it. Now, there are 2 broad types of regression. I've tried to explain that. We have the simple and multiple. Now you understand what simple means. Simple because there is only one independent. Now we are looking at GDP of a country as dependent variable, and we are looking at exports. How is export helping to grow GDP? That is what this equation is trying to answer. So because we have only exports here, a simple regression. Now in this other case, we decided to put export and import. What you import, the raw materials you import for your production and all of that, even what you consume, have a way of affecting your GDP, as well as what you export, like crude oil and other resources you export. They also have a way of affecting your GDP. So if we put once it's more than one independent variable, it becomes multiple. It can be up to 3, 4, 5, 6. There are conditions for adding them, which is not of interest to us here. Now I'm going to take you to EViews and we'll see how to do it. But before we go, let me say that the independent variables, we have what we call core independent variable and auxiliary independent variable. Now, your independent variable becomes core when it has to do with the objective of your study. Now, if my study is the effect of foreign trade on economic growth or GDP, gross domestic products. If my topic is the effect of foreign trade, that foreign trade is split into 2, exports and imports. Okay, now exports and imports will become my core variables. But in the course of reviewing my literature and theories, I may find need to include what exchange rates, because when you trade with foreign countries, there is exchange of currency. So exchange rates may come in, and I may also want to include foreign direct investment, what other nations are coming to invest into my economy. It has a way of growing my GDP too. So if I decide to include 2 of them, but they are not part of my objective. My objective 1 may be to look at the effect of export on GDP, objective 2 to look at the effect of imports on GDP. These ones are not part of the objective. But I found reason to include them. They become auxiliary variable. If in the course of my analysis they are not behaving well, I can decide to drop any of them or all of them because it will not affect my studies. Okay, on that note, I will take you straight to EViews and we'll see what it looks like. For those of you who have got EViews, you will go ahead to open your own as I open mine. And those of you who have got the data, go ahead and open your data as I open mine. I like using the method I call monkey see, monkey do. There's a cartoon that children used to watch in those days. I also enjoy it. You see a monkey standing on a stage. Whatever the monkey is doing, the children are replicating it. All right? the monkey will raise up one hand, the children will raise up that hand also. So that's the approach I want to follow here. Do monkey see, monkey do. All right. So what you see me do, try to repeat it if you have this software and you have my data. For those of you who don't have my data, check on the comment box. I've dropped a link on the comment box where you can download the data I'm using, so that if you'll be getting exactly the results I am getting as you follow this simplified approach in training. All right, so I shut down my PowerPoint so that I can show you what this looks like. This is EViews. The shortcut I've dropped there. All right, so I'll click on the shortcut and get it open. Now it may just shoot out of my screen, but I'll drag it back. So EViews is opening. Now it has opened on my screen. Beautiful, it didn't shoot out. So this is EViews for you. When it lands us at this point, someone who is an expert can actually begin to work based on this stage. But permit me to do something because we want to learn. This is a dialog box trying to ask you whether you want to create EView files or you want to open existing files. Some of the things you see here are some of the work I had worked on before. It will show you recent file. If that is where you want to continue, you go ahead. So, but permit me to just close this so you can click here and close this dialog box so that we can start straight point. So click on it. Beautiful, your own has also removed. If you have provision for programming, if you want to run a programming, this is the point where you put your command and you will run with your command, right? But since we are not going that direction, permit me to just go ahead and click file. We want to create what we call work file, so that in the work file we're going to drop our data. But then let's open that Excel. Open your Excel, shoot it up. Now this is my Excel. In this Excel we have what we call sheets. Sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, but I've labeled here time series data and cross-sectional data. All right, time series data are basically data that are collected over time, at a regular interval. So like this particular one that came from Central Bank of Nigeria bulletin, running from 1970 to 2012. It's just for our practice. Okay, we have GDP, we have foreign direct investment, we have exchange rate, exports, import, and the dummy. All right, so beautiful. So let's go. Now the point I'm trying to make is that if you want to create your work file, you need to determine what is the length of the data if you are working with a time series. If you are not working with a time series, you check the data points, how many they are. So now we have 1970 to 2000. I'm going to work with this time series, and then I will also work with cross-sectional. Cross-sectional are like questionnaire you collected within a space of time. Okay, for instance, in this study, there was a collection of income of households, and then from different states in Nigeria. All right, you see Anambra, Abia is actually from southeast Nigeria, Enugu, and then Imo somewhere, and then Ebonyi State. So this is basically collected questionnaire. All right, if you don't know how to collect questionnaire, you can check my discussion on how to design questionnaires and primary data analysis. Now, but for each of the households that were surveyed, we collected the data on income of the household. We collected data on the gender of the household head, whether it's a male or a female, then the size of the household, whether they are 2 or 3, how many people are living there, the education of the household member. All right, we also collected that information, years of education, how many years the household head has spent on education, electricity supply, whether it's strong or it's not strong, or a lot of that, whether they are doing a particular variety, hybrid agriculture or not. We're studying something on that. Then there's something called social capital, the level of their social capital. That's not an issue of discussion. Just understand that here we have this data. Now I've explained this data. Let's go back to time series. So I will check from 1970 to which year, what is the ending year, 2012. Now let's go to that EViews. I'll pull it up again. You come to file. You see open new. If I already have my files saved in EViews, I will say open. I will go to previous files I've saved. But since I've not saved anything, click open new work file. Okay, I'll just show you two methods of bringing this data, and that will be fine. Then work file. Now I've opened work file. It gives me this dialog box. It's asking me what's the regular frequency of the data I'm working with. Is it a regular data like time series or unstructured or panel? I see some people showing interest in panel. We're going to treat panel, okay, but not in this particular training. All right, then it's actually annual data. If it is something I collected monthly, I'll put it, or quarterly, I'll indicate there. So let's leave it at default annual. And then we'll quickly select the start date. The start date is what? 1970. Type it on your own. Have you typed it? Beautiful, you are intelligent. All right, and then it stops at which year? 2000 and what? 2012. You are brilliant. Beautiful. Clap for yourself. I love the way you are following. All right. Okay, so you click OK. Beautiful. Now we have clicked OK. It has created what is called a work file. A work file is like a carpenter who comes to his shop and wants to start work for the day and decide to, on the table, there are things. So he clears the table where he's going to work. That table is your work file, is your work table. So this is our work file where we're going to bring in our data. Our data is not yet here, but you see the system has already defined for us that our data ranges from 1970 to 2012. And then the sample is the same thing. It could differ if, for instance, we have 1970 to 2012, and then during the analysis, I may decide to work with only 1970 to 2000. That becomes the sample I'm working with, whereas the range is higher. All right, so now we have done that. The next thing we need to do is to bring our data to this work file. So how do we bring our data? We go to quick, click quick, go to quick here. All right, just click on quick. You see a lot of things, they drop down, but my interest in this is in this empty group edit series. So we will click on this. Are you there with me? Beautiful. So click on your own. What do you see? Let me click mine and we see if we are getting the same thing. Oh, beautiful. We have got the same thing. All right. We have got the same thing. It's showing us the year that is already there. Now, there are mistakes some people make and they'll run into confusion. I'll show you that mistake. I'll show you how to avoid it. Okay. So let's go and copy our data. I copy the data. If I want to copy this data as fast as possible, I will hold Shift key and hold Control key, and I'll press arrow down. It will stop where this data has stopped. Then I'll press arrow to the sideways. It will stop where the data has stopped. But permit me to do something. This last one that is dummy, I don't want to copy it now. So I'll move a step to the left to remove the copy on the dummy, so that we are going to use that dummy to show how to bring in additional variable when you already have your data set in EViews. So I click Control C, which is copy. Control C. When you see something that looks like ants like this, it shows you it's like ants running around the space we have highlighted. It shows you that this data is actively in copy. All right. So let's get back to EViews. On this EViews, if you drop this data straight here, where you have 1970, something will happen. You will lose what we call the variable names. Look at the variable names, this thing on top. And meanwhile, anytime you are doing your variable names, don't add space and don't use hyphen. If you must separate two words, use underscore. All right, if I drop it now, we're going to lose the variable names, because where the variable name is supposed to appear here, we have not shifted to that point. So let me just paste and show you how it happens. Paste. Now the variable names are not there. It's showing us that the first one is unavailable because the variable name is supposed to be there. Okay. All right. Beautiful. So I'll show you how to correct this. Meanwhile, it has gone ahead to drop for me those variables on my work file. So I'm going to close this now. I just showed you this so you don't make that mistake when you start working on your own independently. The idea here is to teach you to become independent. I mean, learn this thing and run with it for life. Now I'll highlight everything here, and I'm going to delete all of them. I highlighted them. I click delete. If you want, what I did, I clicked on the first one, then I held shift key and clicked on the last one. It highlighted all of them. In case you are following my example and you have made mistake, just click delete all of them. Say delete all. You see delete? Yeah, I said delete, yes to all, delete. It has deleted everything. So back to square one. Let's go back to quick to open that empty group edit series. I'm sure you are following. Now we have opened it again. See why that mistake happened? Because this cursor here, this space here, I'll need to move this cursor up. Now I've moved it up. It has shown me space here. This is where the variable name is supposed to be. So if I copy it and paste it, it's still actively copied. If I paste it on that space, the variable names will appear. So can we paste now? Are you with me? Right click, then paste. Beautiful. It has given me those variable names as they ought to be. Okay, great. So this is how to bring in your data, to EViews. I can minimize this. If I minimize it, I'll be looking at, if I want to open it again, I'll click here, it will open. So I can actually minimize it. It has different windows here. Okay. So the next thing I want to do is it says included everything here for me. So this is my work file. It's ready for working. I can use it and start working. But let me show you the second method of bringing this data on board here. Okay, so can we follow the same approach and delete everything? This is approach of creating work file. There's an approach where we can just, now if I want to delete, I'm careful not to remove the residual. The residual is like that our error terms I mentioned to you. So don't delete it. It comes at default. Okay, now I will delete everything there. Okay, I'll click delete. It will delete everything for me there. Yes to all. I can also delete the yay. Beautiful. I can even delete all of this. Okay, let me close all of this. So I'll start from like the beginning. You want to save? No, don't save for me. Okay, let me show you the shortcut. Many of you prefer shortcuts. There is no shortcut to life. If you want to succeed, be ready to work hard. But I will show you the shortcut to this. All right. Now, once I have clicked on this, okay, for those of you who may get confused, let me also close my EViews. So I start afresh. EView is opening. EView has opened now. I decide to close this file, and then I will copy my Excel data set. Now it's still actively copied. What I will need to do is to come on the body of this my EViews and right click there. I right click and ask it to paste for me, or paste a new work file. That thing I copied, paste it here. While it's pasting it, it will create that work file for me. So paste, it will just ask me a few questions. I should confirm that the heading is having the variable name. All right, so that is fine for me. That is the variable name. Okay, and it's showing me a sample of what it will look like when it appears. And that's okay by me. I'll click finish. If I want to check any other, I say next. If I want to describe each of them, I can do that, and then permit me to just click finish. I finished. He said, do you want to, now the data I'm trying to drop here is asking me whether I will want it to be linked to the source, such that when I change that Excel file, it will change here. I don't want to link it that way, so that it will remain independently planted. Beautiful. You see, my work file is created. If you have got to this point, you are on the way to becoming an expert in econometrics analysis. Clap for yourself. Ah, you didn't clap. Clap for yourself. Beautiful. Now we have done that. If you are following us, we mapped out what to achieve in this particular class, and there are 4 things. So we have done the first one, getting the data into EViews. The next one is to edit. Okay, now our data is here. If I want to edit, if I want to edit, I will open my data set. Look at this, my data set. I can use Control key to select one by one the ones I want. Now I've selected, you say I want the system to open this my data sheet. Okay, to open my data file. Now open it for me. I'll right click there and say open. I see, that's our language. I will say open. I will click on open. Are you following me? Open as group. If I open it as group, it will open that table for me like the Excel file from where we are coming. So open as group. It has opened it for me here. Now it has opened it. I can see all of that. If I want to modify anything here, I can modify it. Okay. Now, if I want to modify this, it's like a cast in stone. It's not allowing me to edit anything here. If, for instance, I discover that this year is actually wrong, that the year is supposed to start from 1980, I can come here and click on edit plus or minus. If I click on it, it will highlight edit for me. So it's able to edit for me now. I can use YR as yay. He said, do you want to change it? I click yes. So this is actually editing your data. 19, is that correct? 1980. So it can actually begin to change it for me now. I can start editing all of them. So that is on the other part on editing your variable. But permit me to return it to 1970. Now, so the next thing, we have seen how to edit variable. You can edit any of them. All right. So the next thing is how to add variable. So we want to add a new variable. If this edit plus or minus is activated, I can add a new variable. But if it's not activated, I've closed it up. Now let me copy that dummy. This is dummy. I will explain to you what dummy means when we get to that junction. Now this is dummy. I've highlighted dummy. Okay. Then I copy it. You see, dummy is actively copied. Then I come to that EView. Now, if I want to paste it here, it's okay. Say paste. It's not pasting. It said this must be in edit mode to modify table. So either I click yes, change it to edit mode, or I come and change it myself. Now it's in edit mode, so I can actually drop my stuff. So it has dropped that dummy for me. All right. So that is to say that we have actually finished our lesson 1 and lesson 2. Lesson 3 and 4 are also very, very simple. People just get afraid of this because they have not been handled by somebody that knows how to make it as simple as possible. That's why I'm happy you are joining us. All right. So let me show you how to do simple regression. By the way, regression can be used for different things in different disciplines. Let me show you again so that we'll do that quickly. You see, the regression can be used like in economics. We can use it in macroeconomics when we are checking the GDP and many other macroeconomic variables. We can also use it in micro variables, like that's the variable we brought on cross-sectional. This is micro because it's household data. What happens in the household, the income of household. This other one is macro because it's GDP, what happens at the national income. Okay, so we can use it in that. Even in behavioral sciences, we can use it in behavioral sciences. For instance, if I want to check the causes of stress on men, I could design a questionnaire that will give me data here that measures stress on men, and then I will check many other variables like their education, whether they are married or not, their income, how many wives they have, how many children they have, how many dependents outside their family they have. These are factors that may be affecting the level of stress on men, and then I'll use it to do a regression. At the end of the day, I'm able to find which factor is significant and which one is not significant. I can also use it on mental health. For instance, if I'm able to design a questionnaire to have it, something that measures mental health on human being, I've asked maybe 400 persons to fill information for me, questionnaire. I could design it with Google form and all of that. By the way, if you don't know how to design Google form, I have a study on it. If you check the description on this particular video, you will see that how to do it. So I can design a Google form and send it out to young people on mental health, I don't know how they do mental measurement. Those of you in psychology, can tell us better. But they can measure mental health. And then I can also now find the factors that can be contributing to the level of mental health and do regression. Even those in biological sciences can check weight. This could be weight of children. You have measured their arm and height and all of that, and then you have checked different factors, what they eat, whether both parents are working and all of that, and there can be factors affecting the weight of these children, or you may even, this one may become disease, and you are checking factors affecting disease. Or even in healthcare, maybe this is the level of recovery or how people are rating this hospital, and then the healthcare, how much healthcare they receive in the hospital could determine how fast they are discharged from the ward. These are things that can be done. Even in engineering, somebody might have this, done, maybe you are constructing something, road or something, and you want to check factors that are affecting durability of road. You can use regression analysis to do it. Now I've explained, and many other things you can do with regression. It's not the property of economics people alone. I'm an economist, but it's something that can be applied in different disciplines, in education and many other disciplines. Okay, now let's get to this EView. How do you do simple regression? This is 30 minutes. And then I told you that we are targeting less than 1 hour. All right, so this is 30 minutes. I'll just show you that, and then we'll wrap up our training in this session. And then you watch out for part 2. Now, how do you do simple regression? Simple, remember, is such that you are going to, is such that you have only one dependent variable. Okay, you have only one dependent variable. That one dependent variable is what is needed. Okay, and how do we do that? You come to quick, you go to quick. Are you in quick? Go to your own quick now. Are you there? Beautiful, you are brilliant. Click on quick, then you see what we call estimate equation. Are you there at estimate equation? Beautiful, you can write it down. All right, so estimate equation, if we click on it, it will give us a dialog box where we're going to define our variable. I clicked on it now. It gives me this beautiful dialog box. Okay, now under here you determine the type of method you want to use. If you don't know anything, just keep it at default until you learn the method. So let's keep it at default, and then it's showing us the sample. If for instance I want to reduce my sample, I can now reduce this sample and say run for this particular sample. Okay, but then what is our simple regression? We have GDP. Just type it here. As you are typing, the system will pop up something for you, GDP. You type it exactly as it is written, or otherwise you just click as it shows up. Now this is my GDP. Okay, then that's there's something I showed you earlier which we call intercepts. Intercepts. Okay, I will add it here by putting C. That is what is shown here. So you put C and give space again, and then my import, I type import. Now only import is the variable I'm considering. Since I'm considering only import, this has become simple regression. Okay, now if I click OK, it gives me the answer, the result of this simple regression. Are you ready to click OK with me? Beautiful. This is the result of simple regression. It's as simple as that. Okay, it's the result of simple regression. And it's telling me the date and the time this was done, okay? And then it's also telling me exactly if your time is not correct, it will also reflect here. If your calendar, like this calendar is showing yesterday, it will also reflect here. All right? Beautiful. And the time, once your time is not correct, it will also reflect in the result. So, but if you correct it on your system and then run it again, the time will come out correct. Now, but that is by the way. Now, the key thing is that your intercept is here. Let me give you a little explanation. We'll see, maybe I'll share with you material where you understand how to interpret this result clearly. But let me give you a few hints before we get to multiple. Now, this is our intercept. It gives us that coefficient. This is that beta we are showing, and then this is the import, and this is the magnitude of the weight the import is having on GDP. Okay, remember that thing I showed you here? This, your beta slope, is the magnitude of this x. Okay, so this is our x, our input, and this coefficient is the magnitude, whether it's big or small. But you don't conclude that it has impact by just looking at it. You can use your T statistics to explain that. I'll share with you material where you understand how to use T statistics. And then, but not here, I'll share with you on another video, all right? Or you check the link on this video, I will also share it after. Now, all right, so now you look at this, you can use your T statistics or you use your probability. This probability is the simplest to explain at this stage. And how do we explain this probability here? If this probability value is less than 5%, what is 5%? 5% is 0.005. This is 5%. This is 5%. So if your probability is less, below 5%, it means that this coefficient is significant. If it is not less, it means that this coefficient is not significant. Okay? If it is not significant, statistically, it means that this magnitude you are seeing here, even though it has value, for instance, if we check the one of the intercept, this intercept, is it significant or not? Of course, it's not significant. I'm happy you know, because this value is more than our alpha. Alpha in this study, for instance, we are using 5%. So because it is more than our alpha, we conclude that it is not significant. Well, in most cases, people don't bother interpreting this. Okay, but since we conclude that it's not significant, what it actually means, statistically speaking, is that this 67,393.42 is statistically the same thing with 0 in this analysis. Is statistically the same thing with 0. Once the magnitude of any variable is not significant, statistically, that magnitude, even though there is figure there, once this thing shows that it's not significant, even though there is figure there, that figure is the same thing as 0, statistically speaking. Okay? And that is why, in this case, it's significant. And since it's significant, the sign in front here is positive. If it is not positive, the system will put negative there. So by default, we see it's positive. So it means that import has significant impact on GDP, because it shows that a unit increase in import will increase GDP by about 4.6 units. That's the interpretation. Since this is significant, we conclude that import is statistically significant, or is impacting, affecting our GDP, all right? Is affecting our GDP, and because it's affecting our GDP, a unit increase in import will increase GDP by the magnitude showed here, which is about 4.6 units. Okay? Now, having shown you that, let me quickly do multiple regression. To do multiple is simple. Just add the next variables that you want to include. So I'm typing export here now. I've included export. If I run export, this is multiple regression. Beautiful. This is multiple regression. So export is also significant. So two of them are significant. You know, but because you have included export, you see it has reduced the magnitude of import. So the more you include variable in your model, is affecting the magnitude each one is having. And that is why it's important you don't just include variables arbitrarily. You need to be sure there is a basis for what you are including. Okay? Now, you can also include other ones. So, which other variables do we have? We have FDI, foreign direct investment. We include it. And then which other one? We include which one again? Now, leave dummy. Don't go to dummy now. I know you want to get to dummy. I will explain to you that dummy. So is that okay? Exchange rate. Yeah, thank you for reminding me. Exchange rate. Okay, exchange rate. Now I've included, how many independent variables do we have here now? Tell me, how many independent variables? Beautiful. 4. You are intelligent. That's why you're supposed to make first class. If they didn't give you first class, maybe it's an error from their side. That's good. All right. So I can click OK now. You see, this thing is as simple as ABCD. Okay? So which ones are significant if we are using 5% and which ones are not? Export, is it significant? Yes, it is. Beautiful. I wanted to say you're a good boy, a good girl. Don't worry, it's all right. So what of import is significant? Export is significant. Okay, see FDI, tell me, is it significant? Check, 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 check. 5%, what is 5%? Some of you that are not mathematically inclined is 0.05. So 0.05 and this one, which is higher, 0.05 is higher. So this is actually below 5%, so it's significant. So FDI, the money people are bringing into the country, is also positively affecting GDP because it's positive value. Now, what of exchange rate is beyond 5%? So exchange rate is not significant. Statistically speaking, like I mentioned earlier, what it means is that this 32,000, okay, no, 3,200 is statistically the same thing as zero. And because it's the same thing as zero, it means that any increase in exchange rate or variation in exchange rate will have zero effect on GDP. That is what this study is showing. Okay? Now, good. I'm happy you have followed me up to this point. I want to wrap up by using the other variable which I collected from the field. Okay? So if you need this result, you just copy it and you highlight. You see, I put my cursor somewhere here and I dragged it down. You highlight it, you copy and go to Word document and paste it. The system here will not store anything for you. So any result you get you like, you copy it and paste in Word document. Okay, so permit me to close up all of this so that I will want to work with that data we collected from the field. Yeah, and that's where we're going to end our discussion in this meeting. I don't want to save anything. So let's get to the cross-sectional data. The cross-sectional data, the one we got from the field. Okay, now it's showing me the states. Now, one of the good things I can do, now I clicked on this, I right-clicked on it, so you know what I'm doing, and then I click insert. Insert, beautiful. Now, I want to put serial number here, serial number, SN, and I want to number this to know where the data stops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I've numbered some, I can highlight it, and the system will understand what I'm doing. I highlighted it. I will move my cursor here until it becomes small plus. You know, this is like fat plus. It becomes small plus. Then I will hold my shift key and drag it down. The system will be numbering it serially until it has got to where the data stops. All right? Beautiful. Okay? Beautiful. So we have 400 data points. So I can create that sample and put 400 data points. But permit me to, instead of doing that, permit me to use our normal method of copy and pasting to create Word file. Okay, so I'll come here, right click and say paste new Word file. I can even say paste. It will just generate that thing. It follows the same process. I click finish. Don't link it up. Good. All right, so it has given me this data set. And then my simple regression could be that my income. So how do you do simple? You go to quick again, empty group edit series. Okay, sorry, it's not the empty group now. We already have a series now. All right, so delete this. Now we go to quick and then estimate the equation. I'm looking at income, right? Income. Okay, that's my dependent variable. The one you type first is your dependent variable. Okay, now what else do I check that could be affecting income? Let's check if the gender of household head is affecting income. So what do? We put our C, don't forget your C, that's your constant. Then H, household head gender, and then we may also click the household size. Okay, household size, how many they are in the family. Okay, if I do only one, the gender of the household head, that will be my simple regression. You remember? So let me cut away this and just do that one and see what it looks like. Wow, Wow, of course it's not significant. You can see, you see, it's not significant. And those who understand regression, we know that this arrow square is showing me that it is not explaining this very, very well. So let's put that other one and see what happens. I'm putting the household size to see what happens. You see now household size is significant, it's less than 5%. All right, so this is multiple. The first one I did is simple. This is multiple. All right, now there's something else I need to show you before we conclude here. I'm closing this results, but I still have my data. Now, if I want the system, I want to generate my equation without getting to type it myself. What I'll need to do is to click on them. I'll hold my control key. I'll hold my control key. The one I click first will be my dependent variable. So I click income. Okay. Now, I click electricity supply. I click education, years of education, whether they are doing improved agriculture or not. The gender of household head, you see the way I'm clicking them. Household size, is there another thing? Social capital. I've selected the ones I want to appear in my model. Then I will click here. Are you still with me? I'm not too fast. In the next less than 5 minutes, we'll stop here. I'm almost done. All right, so I'll right click on this part. If I move it here and right click, it will unhighlight everything. So on the highlighted part, I'll right click there and go to open and click select as equation. So it's going to open it for me as equation. Beautiful. You see my income comes first because I selected it first. Okay, and then my C is at the end there, but I like to put it immediately after the dependent variable. It's not compulsory. It doesn't affect the model. So let me delete this one here, and then this is of course multiple regression. I'll click OK. It gives me a very beautiful result from where I can begin to check which one is significant among all of them now. Anyone? Not significant. Not significant. This one is not significant. This one is not significant. This one is not significant. Ah, it's significant. You got it. I wanted to trick you. You are brilliant. I said it. You are too much. So this is significant. So only household size. You see the other one is not significant. Only household size is significant here. All right. So, and it's positive. So this is actually showing that an increase in the household size will increase the income of the household. That's what this research is showing. Any other research can show otherwise. And this is where we are going to draw the curtain for today. All right? If you need this result, remember what I said. You put your cursor somewhere and select. You click, copy, and paste it in Word document. Okay? And that is where we are going to stop today. So watch out for part 2 of this discussion. I'm sure you've enjoyed this interaction. Thank you so much for joining in this training. If you have not subscribed, please do subscribe so that when next I drop any relevant or related video, you will get it automatically. Thank you very much and God bless you. I see you becoming another expert in regression and data sciences. Cheers.